NASCAR has a problem, and his name is Shane Van Gisbergen. 6 wins in the last 7 road course races. Already tied for third on NASCAR's all-time road course wins list. And here's the scary part. He's only been racing full-time in the Cup Series for a single season. Most drivers spend years trying to master these tracks. SVG walked in and started dominating them. But according to people inside the garage, his speed isn't the most shocking thing. It's how he's doing it. Drivers aren't calling it talent. They're calling it something closer to a cheat code. A technique so unusual, so difficult to replicate, that some veterans believe they'd need another entire career just to become half as good at it. And now, behind closed doors, there are growing whispers that NASCAR may eventually have to step in. Not because he's breaking any rules, but because nobody else can keep up. The pedal box, the gearbox, the differential. Everything is suddenly under the microscope. Because one driver from New Zealand has exposed a weakness in the entire field. And the most incredible part. The secret isn't hidden under the hood. It's happening at his feet. This is the story of Shane Van Gisbergen's unfair advantage. In the silent war, NASCAR may already be fighting to stop it. So how does one driver keep making elite Cup Series veterans look ordinary? To understand that, we need to start in the footwell. Because while every other driver in NASCAR attacks a corner one way, SVG drives it completely differently. Modern Cup drivers almost always brake with their left foot. The next-gen car's sequential transmission means they barely need the clutch. Simple. Efficient. Standard. But Shane Van Gisbergen never learned racing that way. He brakes with his right foot. At the exact same moment, he rolls the edge of his shoe onto the throttle while working the clutch with his left foot. 3 separate inputs. 1 fluid motion. It's called heel and toe downshifting. And for SVG, it's as natural as breathing. On Dale Jr. Download, Shane explained it perfectly. I've always right foot braked and heel toed, it's what I grew up doing. For him, this isn't a special technique. It's instinct. Years of muscle memory built long before he ever arrived in NASCAR. And that's where the advantage begins. Because what looks like an old-school racing habit is actually giving him 3 massive advantages over the rest of the field. First, tire preservation. Second, corner rotation. Third, acceleration off the corner. And together, they're helping SVG do something NASCAR hasn't seen in years. Turn road course races into his personal playground. Theory number 1. NASCAR standardizes the pedal box. Right now, teams have some flexibility in how pedals are positioned and spaced. Not a huge amount, but enough that certain layouts can make advanced footwork easier to execute. If NASCAR introduced a strict spec pedal box with fixed dimensions for every team, one thing would happen immediately. SVG's greatest weapon becomes harder to use. Not impossible, just less effective. And in a sport where tenths of a second decide races, less effective might be all NASCAR needs. But that's only the beginning. Theory number 2 goes even further. Eliminate clutch involvement altogether. The next-gen car already uses a sequential-style gearbox. NASCAR could push the concept to its logical conclusion. No clutch inputs after launch. No mid-corner manipulation. No extra tricks. Just shift and go. If that happens, one of SVG's biggest advantages disappears overnight. The ability to use the clutch to protect the rear tires and stabilize the car on corner entry. Gone. Just like that. But then there's theory number 3. And this is where things get serious. The differential. Because according to Shane himself, this may be the hidden piece nobody is talking about. Speaking on Dale Jr. Download, SVG explained that supercars used a locked differential. That's one of the reasons heel and toe became so important in the first place. The NASCAR Cup car is different. It uses a more open differential setup, which means the technique isn't required. It's simply beneficial. And that's exactly why changing the differential could change everything. One small adjustment. One technical update. And suddenly the entire competitive equation looks different. Now before anyone starts panicking, Has NASCAR officially announced any of these changes? No. Nothing. The latest technical updates focused on horsepower packages, short track performance, and aerodynamic tweaks. There has been no official mention of targeting SVG's technique. At least not yet. But anyone who has followed NASCAR long enough knows how this story usually ends. When one driver finds a competitive advantage that nobody else can match, people start asking questions. And eventually, the rulebook starts getting attention. Because 6 wins in 7 road course races doesn't just turn heads. It forces conversations. And here's the twist nobody expected. A lot of longtime NASCAR fans don't actually want NASCAR to stop him. In fact, they love what he's doing. Because SVG isn't winning with some futuristic loophole. He's winning with an old-school skill. Right foot braking. Heel and toe downshifting. Mechanical feel. Pure driver input. The kind of craftsmanship that used to define stock car racing before technology started doing more of the work. For many fans, watching SVG drive feels like watching a forgotten art form come back to life. Which creates a fascinating dilemma. Do you regulate excellence? Or do you force everyone else to catch up? That's the question NASCAR may eventually have to answer. And from here, the future splits into 2 very different paths. Scenario 1. NASCAR leaves everything alone. No rule changes. No restrictions. No intervention. SVG continues dominating road courses. Young drivers entering the sport start learning the technique from an early age. The next generation adapts. And eventually the field catches up. In many ways, we're already seeing the first signs of that future. Connor Zilisch has shown flashes of exactly what's coming. Young, fearless, and growing up with a completely different skill set than the veterans around him. He may be the first glimpse of NASCAR's next evolution. But then there's scenario 2. NASCAR decides the gap has become too large. The pedal box gets standardized. Clutch use becomes restricted. Technical changes begin stacking up. Not because SVG did anything wrong, but because the advantage became too powerful to ignore. And if that happens, the sport changes again. Of course, Shane wouldn't be starting from zero. He's already been working on left foot braking. Already adapting. Already evolving. Which means even if NASCAR removes one weapon, the scary possibility is that he'll simply find another. And maybe that's the real story here. Not the technique. Not the clutch. Not the differential. The driver. Because while NASCAR debates rules and engineers debate data, one fact remains impossible to ignore. A racer from Auckland arrived in America, brought a forgotten skill with him, and forced an entire garage full of elite drivers to rethink how a race car can be driven. That's not just dominance. That's influence. Now I want to hear from you. Should NASCAR step in and level the playing field? Or should they leave everything exactly as it is and let talent decide the outcome? Drop your answer in the comments. Type level IT if NASCAR should regulate the advantage. Or type let HIM cook if you think the best driver should win. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit subscribe. Because when the next road course arrives, we'll be diving deeper into the data, the strategy, and the technical battles that most fans never get to see. Until next time, keep it flat out.